I found the receipt on our 7th anniversary. It was tucked inside Cameron's jacket pocket, the Tom Ford blazer I'd bought him last Christmas. I wasn't snooping. I was simply taking it to the dry cleaners like I did every Tuesday morning. The Ritz-Carlton, Presidential Suite. 2 nights. $8,400. We hadn't been to the Ritz together in months. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and checked our calendar. March 15th and 16th. The nights Cameron told me he was in Boston closing the Newberry Street property deal. I sat on the edge of our California king bed, the one I'd selected, in the penthouse I'd decorated in the building. Cameron had purchased with my family's money, and I made myself breathe. 7 years of marriage. 10 years together. I was 22 when we met, a recent Harvard business graduate with a trust fund and connections Cameron could only dream about. He was 28, managing a mid-tier hotel in Manhattan, drowning in ambition but lacking capital. I fell in love with his drive. His vision. The way he talked about building an empire. I didn't realize I was the empire he'd be building it on. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I did what I'd learned to do best over 7 years of marriage. I investigated. Cameron's laptop sat on his home office desk, password protected but predictable. His passwords were always the same, variations of his birth year and mother's maiden name. I was inside within 30 seconds. His email painted a clearer picture than I wanted to see. Natalie Pierce. His executive assistant for the past 2 years. The efficient blonde who'd replaced the previous assistant, the one I'd actually interviewed and hired. Cameron had let her go after 6 months, claiming she wasn't a good fit. Now I understood what good fit meant. The emails went back 18 months. They started professional, then flirtatious, then explicit. But it wasn't just the affair that made my blood run cold. It was the other emails. Offshore account statements. Property transfers I'd never approved. Corporate restructuring documents that stripped my name from holdings I thought I still owned. Cameron had been systematically erasing me from Westbrook Industries for over a year. I waited until Friday. Cameron liked to work from home on Fridays, taking calls from the penthouse office while I made him lunch. I made him his favorite that day, seared salmon with asparagus. "We need to talk," I said, placing the plate in front of him. He didn't even look up from his phone. "Can it wait? I have a call with the Dubai investors in 20 minutes. The Dubai investors. Another deal I'd connected him with through my college roommate's father. It's about Natalie. His fingers froze over his phone screen. Just for a second. Then he recovered, that practiced smile sliding into place. What about her? How long? Diana. How long? He set down his phone, and I saw it then, not guilt, but annoyance. As if I were a problem to be managed, not a wife he'd betrayed. 18 months, he said finally. Look, these things happen. We've grown apart. You have to admit that. I laughed. Actually laughed. We've grown apart? I've spent 7 years building your company, Cameron. Using my connections, my money, my ideas. Your ideas? He stood, and suddenly he was the Cameron I'd seen in boardrooms, the one who crushed competitors. You helped in the beginning, sure. But Westbrook Industries is what it is because of my vision, my execution. You were support staff. Support staff. The words hit like a slap. I want a divorce, I said quietly. Already drafted. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. My lawyer will send the official papers Monday, but you can review these now. The prenup is clear. You get nothing. The prenup was 7 years old, signed 3 days before our wedding. I remembered that week. My father had just died suddenly from a heart attack. I was planning a funeral and a wedding simultaneously, drowning in grief. Cameron had been so supportive, so loving. He'd handled everything, he said. Just sign here, Diana. It's standard. It protects us both. Stupid. I'd been so stupid. According to the agreement, I waived all claims to Westbrook Industries, any properties acquired during the marriage, and would receive no spousal support. I'd signed away everything. Natalie will be moving in Sunday, Cameron said, checking his watch. I'd appreciate it if you could be out by then. I'll have my assistant, my new assistant, coordinate the movers. He'd already replaced Natalie. How efficient. Where am I supposed to go? He shrugged. You have friends, don't you? Figure it out. You're Harvard educated, after all. That night, I packed 7 years of marriage into 4 suitcases. Cameron didn't come home. I left my keys on the kitchen counter next to my wedding ring. I walked out of the penthouse at 11 p.m. on a Friday night with nowhere to go and $8,000 in my personal checking account. Cameron had cleaned out our joint accounts that morning. My best friend Sophia let me stay in her guest room in Brooklyn. It was a shoebox compared to the penthouse, but she didn't ask questions, just poured wine and let me cry. He's not going to get away with this, she said on my 3rd night there, after I'd finally told her everything. He already has. The prenup is ironclad. Then we find another way. But what way? I'd spent 7 years out of the workforce, playing the supportive wife while Cameron networked and climbed. My Harvard degree felt like ancient history. My connections knew me as Mrs. Westbrook, Cameron's wife. Who would take me seriously now? I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on Sophia's couch with my laptop, going through every file I'd kept from the early days of Westbrook Industries. There had to be something Cameron missed, some detail in the chaos of building an empire. At 3 a.m., I found it. A file labeled D.W. Trust, Wedding Gift. My father's final gift to me, created 2 weeks before the wedding, 1 week before he died. I'd been so consumed with grief I'd barely registered the documents I'd signed with his estate lawyer. I opened the file and started reading. By sunrise, I was smiling for the first time in 2 weeks. The document was elegant in its complexity, exactly the kind of protective structure my father would create. Upon my marriage to Cameron Westbrook, my father had established the Diana Hart Irrevocable Trust and seeded it with $15 million. That trust had then invested in Westbrook Industries as a silent partner, acquiring 49% ownership through a holding company called Hart Capital LLC. The genius was in the structure. The shares were held in trust until one of 2 conditions was met: my father's death, already satisfied, and my divorce from Cameron Westbrook. Upon divorce, the shares would activate, and I would gain full voting rights. My father had never trusted Cameron. He'd said as much the week before he died, though I hadn't wanted to hear it. He looks at you like an asset, Diana. Like something to acquire. I defended Cameron. Told my father he was wrong. Now, sitting in Sophia's guest room with tears streaming down my face, I wished I could tell my father he'd been right about everything. I couldn't reveal the ownership. Not yet. Cameron's lawyers were clearly competent. They'd eventually discover the trust, but it might take them weeks or even months to untangle the structure my father's estate attorneys had created. I needed to move first. I called the estate lawyer, Bernard Hoffman, the man who'd handled my father's affairs for 30 years. He was semi-retired now, living in Connecticut, but he answered on the second ring. Diana, I wondered when you'd call. You knew about the divorce? I know Cameron Westbrook filed papers 3 days ago. I also know those papers make no mention of Hart Capital LLC's 49% stake in his company. Can they contest it? They can try, but your father was meticulous. Every document is airtight. The shares are yours. I need your help, Bernard. I need to move carefully. Tell me what you need. We talked for 2 hours. By the end, I had a plan. On Monday morning, I walked into the offices of Sterling & Associates, one of Manhattan's premier executive recruiting firms. I was no longer Diana Westbrook, Billionaire's wife. I was Diana Hart, business consultant, Harvard MBA, 7 years of strategic experience in luxury hospitality. Your resume is impressive, the recruiter said, scanning my carefully edited CV. I'd removed all references to being Cameron's wife, instead framing my work as independent consulting for various hospitality ventures. It wasn't technically a lie. I'm particularly interested in positions involving corporate restructuring and distressed assets, I said. I excel at identifying inefficiencies and turning companies around. We actually have something perfect. She pulled up a file. Thornton Capital Group is looking for a senior consultant to evaluate their hospitality portfolio. One of their major investments is struggling, and they need fresh eyes. Which investment? She smiled. Westbrook Industries. Do you know it? I kept my face neutral. I'm familiar with their work. They've invested over $300 million and are considering pulling out. If you can assess the situation and provide recommendations, the position could become permanent. Interested. Extremely. Thornton Capital Group hired me within a week. My assignment: conduct a comprehensive audit of Westbrook Industries and determine whether their $300 million investment was salvageable. I had complete access to everything: financial records, property reports, board meeting minutes, employee complaints. Everything Cameron thought was private. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Westbrook Industries looked profitable on paper, but the reality was smoke and mirrors. Cameron had been financing expansion by over-leveraging properties, cooking the books to hide losses, and using creative accounting to maintain his billionaire image. 3 of his newest properties, the vanity projects he'd insisted on despite my advice, were hemorrhaging money. The Miami flagship was 40% vacant. The Los Angeles boutique hotel had been cited for safety violations. The Dubai property existed only as an expensive hole in the ground. But the most interesting discovery was Natalie Pierce's handiwork. Small amounts. Always under $10,000, the threshold that would trigger automatic review. Spread across dozens of accounts, masked as vendor payments, consulting fees, and operational expenses. Over 3 years, Natalie had stolen $2.3 million from Westbrook Industries. Cameron had no idea. His ego wouldn't let him believe that his efficient, devoted assistant, the woman he'd left me for, would steal from him. I documented everything. Every fraudulent transaction, every fake invoice, every shell company Natalie had created. Then I kept digging. I started attending industry events again. Not as Cameron's wife, but as Diana Hart, the consultant who was quietly becoming known for saving distressed hospitality assets. The funny thing about being invisible for 7 years, people forgot you were ever there. But they remembered your work. Diana Hart. Any relation to Thomas Hart? An investor asked at a Manhattan cocktail party. He was my father. Brilliant man. I'm sorry for your loss. It was sudden, wasn't it? 7 years ago. But thank you. You know, your father once told me about a hotel deal he was structuring for his daughter's husband. Never saw it come to fruition. Whatever happened with that? I smiled. It came to fruition. Just not the way anyone expected. Word spread quickly in our industry. Thomas Hart's daughter was back, and she had her father's instincts. Board members from Westbrook Industries started reaching out. Quietly. Carefully. They remembered me too. Mrs. Westbrook. Hart. I use my maiden name now. Arthur Chen. No, I need a different name. Arthur Blackwell, Westbrook Industries' longest-serving board member, adjusted his glasses. We were meeting at a discreet restaurant in Tribeca, far from where anyone in our industry might spot us. Ms. Hart, then. I'll be direct. Several board members are concerned about the company's direction. Cameron has become erratic, aggressive. He's making decisions without consultation, and when we question him, he threatens to replace us. Can he do that? Technically, yes. He controls 51% of voting shares. Or so we thought, until our corporate counsel started digging into some irregularities. My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. Irregularities. There's a holding company we can't fully account for. Hart Capital, LLC. It appears to own 49% of Westbrook Industries, but we can't determine the beneficial owner. Cameron claims it's a silent partner he arranged in the early days, but the documentation is... He paused. Unusual. How unusual. It appears the shares were non-voting until recently, but something triggered their activation. Now they're voting shares, and we can't find the owner to confirm how they'll vote on key decisions. I took a sip of wine. Have you considered that the owner might not want to be found yet? Arthur studied me carefully. Then understanding dawned in his eyes. Good God! It's you. My father created the trust as a wedding gift. I didn't fully understand it until recently. Arthur leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. Thomas always was 3 steps ahead of everyone else. He knew Cameron would eventually show his true colors. The question is, what do I do with 49% ownership of a company that's hemorrhaging money and cooking its books? You have proof of fraud? I pulled out a flash drive. Everything. Cameron's creative accounting, the over-leveraged properties, the hidden losses, and Natalie Pierce's embezzlement. Arthur's eyes widened. His assistant, ex-assistant, current girlfriend. She's been stealing small amounts for 3 years. It totals $2.3 million. Does Cameron know? Not yet. But he will. When it's most useful for me. We talked for 3 hours, building a strategy. Arthur would quietly rally the board members who'd grown tired of Cameron's autocracy. I would continue my work at Thornton Capital, building my case for why they should demand a full audit. And when the time was right, we'd strike. Thornton Capital's quarterly review meeting happened on a Tuesday in October, exactly 6 months after Cameron had handed me divorce papers. I presented my findings. Westbrook Industries was overextended, over-leveraged, and operating on accounting practices that ranged from aggressive to potentially fraudulent. My recommendation is to demand a comprehensive independent audit as a condition for continued funding. If Cameron Westbrook refuses or if the audit reveals significant irregularities, Thornton should consider divesting entirely. The managing partners exchanged glances. This is a $300 million investment, one said. If we pull out, Westbrook Industries could collapse. If you don't pull out and the company collapses anyway, taking your investment with it, you'll face liability from your own investors. The audit protects everyone. They voted unanimously to demand the audit. Cameron received the notice on Wednesday morning. Cameron called me on Wednesday afternoon. I'd been expecting it. Arthur had warned me Cameron was frantically calling every board member, trying to understand where the audit demand had come from. Diana, it's Hart now. What can I do for you, Cameron? You're behind this. The Thornton audit. I know it was you. I'm a consultant for Thornton Capital. I assess investments and make recommendations. That's my job. Your job. You don't have a job. You're my ex-wife living in Brooklyn and pretending to be relevant. Actually, I'm the consultant who just identified $2.3 million in embezzlement from your company. You're welcome. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Natalie, your devoted girlfriend. She's been stealing from you for 3 years. Small amounts, very clever, but it adds up. I assume she was building a nest egg in case you got bored with her too. You're lying. Check the Cayman accounts under Pierce Holdings LLC. Or don't. The auditors will find them anyway. I hung up. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed with a text from Arthur. He just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. He's panicking. Perfect. I wasn't at the emergency board meeting, but Arthur recorded it and sent me the audio that evening. Cameron had confronted Natalie about the embezzlement the night before. She'd admitted everything, then tried to claim Cameron had known and approved the consulting fees for her side businesses. He'd fired her immediately and banned her from all company properties. Now, at the board meeting, he was trying to spin the situation. This is an isolated incident involving a rogue employee who will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The embezzlement in no way reflects the overall health of Westbrook Industries. What about the over-leveraged properties? Arthur asked. The Miami flagship that's 40% vacant? The LA hotel with safety violations? Minor challenges in a growth phase. Every expanding company faces. What about the accounting irregularities Thornton Capital identified? Cameron's voice turned sharp. Aggressive accounting is not illegal. Every major corporation uses. What about Hart Capital LLC? Silence on the recording. Then Cameron's voice, carefully controlled. What about it? Who owns it, Cameron? We've been asking for months. You keep saying it's a silent partner, but we can't verify that. And now it appears to hold 49% of this company. That's privileged information. Not from your own board, it isn't. Who owns Heart Capital? More silence. Then Cameron's lawyer's voice. We're still researching the ownership structure. It's complex. You have 1 week, Arthur said. 1 week to provide complete transparency on Heart Capital's ownership, or I'm joining Thornton's demand for a full independent audit. And I believe I can get 6 other board members to vote with me. The recording ended with the sound of Cameron slamming a door. Cameron's lawyer finally traced Heart Capital LLC back to my father's trust on a Friday afternoon, 8 days after the emergency board meeting. I know because Bernard Hoffman called me, laughing. They're threatening to sue, claiming your father defrauded Cameron in the original investment. Can they win? Not a chance. Every document is pristine. Your father disclosed the investment. Cameron's lawyer simply didn't do proper due diligence. That's not fraud, that's incompetence. What happens now? Now they know you control 49% of Westbrook Industries. And with Thornton demanding an audit and the board turning against him, Cameron has a choice: negotiate with you or watch his empire collapse. He'll never negotiate with me. Then we'll let it collapse. Your 49% will be worth more if you rebuild from the ashes anyway. That weekend, news broke about Natalie's embezzlement. Someone had leaked it to the Wall Street Journal. The article was devastating. Billionaire's mistress stole millions while he cooked the books. Cameron's publicist put out a statement claiming he was the victim of a sophisticated scheme. No one believed him. By Monday morning, 3 major investors had pulled out. Westbrook Industries' stock price plummeted. Cameron showed up at Sophia's apartment on Tuesday evening. She didn't want to let him in, but I told her it was fine. He looked terrible. His Tom Ford suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. I need your help, he said without preamble. I'm sorry, who are you? Diana, please. The company is falling apart. Investors are fleeing, the banks are calling loans, the SEC is investigating. The SEC? That's unfortunate. Someone filed a complaint. Anonymously. About accounting irregularities. I said nothing. It was you. All of this was you. I'm just a consultant who did her job. Not my fault your house of cards was that fragile. I'll lose everything. Good. He stared at me. You really hate me that much? Hate you? Cameron, I don't feel anything for you. But you called me support staff after I spent 7 years building your empire. You erased me from everything I helped create. So now I'm watching you lose it all, and I feel exactly what you felt when you handed me those divorce papers. I smiled. Nothing. What do you want? Money. Properties. I'll give you whatever. I want Westbrook Industries. What? I own 49%. With the right board vote, I can take control. You step down as CEO, sign over operational authority, and maybe, I'll save your company. You can't run Westbrook Industries. You don't have the experience. I laughed. I built Westbrook Industries. You were just the face. Now get out. He left without another word. The next morning, Arthur called. 6 board members are ready to vote for new leadership. We just need 1 more. Leave that to me, I said. The holdout was Patricia Thornhill, a 60-year-old investor who'd known Cameron's father and had a soft spot for the Westbrook family name. I met her at her 5th Avenue apartment on a Wednesday morning. You want me to vote against Cameron, she said, pouring tea. Arthur has made that clear. I want you to vote for competent leadership. There's a difference. Cameron is young. He made mistakes. But he built something impressive. Cameron built something impressive with my money, my connections, and my strategic planning. Then he kicked me out and claimed it was all his vision. Marriage is complicated. This isn't about marriage. It's about business. Westbrook Industries is hemorrhaging money, over-leveraged, and under federal investigation. If Cameron remains CEO, the company will collapse within 6 months. Your $50 million investment will be worthless. Patricia set down her teacup. And if you take over? I restructure. I sell the vanity projects, Focus on the profitable properties, restore investor confidence, and turn Westbrook Industries into what it should have been all along, a lean, profitable luxury hotel group. Can you do that? I already did it once. That's how Cameron became a billionaire. She studied me for a long moment. Your father would be proud of you. Is that a yes? That's a yes. The board meeting happened on October 15th, exactly 7 months after Cameron had served me with divorce papers. This time, I was there. I sat at the conference table in a charcoal suit I'd bought specifically for this moment, my father's watch on my wrist. Around me sat 11 board members, Cameron, and both our lawyers. Cameron looked like he hadn't slept in days. We're here to vote on a motion of no confidence in Cameron Westbrook as CEO and to install interim leadership, Arthur said. All in favor? 7 hands went up, including Patricia's. Cameron's face went pale. You can't do this. I built this company. We can and we are, Arthur said. Diana Hart, as the representative of Hart Capital LLC and holder of 49% equity in this company, we offer you the position of acting CEO until this crisis is resolved. I accept. Cameron shot to his feet. This is illegal. My lawyers will. Your lawyers will tell you it's completely legal, my attorney said calmly. The board has the authority to remove a CEO for cause. Fraud, embezzlement on your watch, and driving the company to the brink of collapse constitute cause. I'll sue. I'll fight this for years. With what money? I asked quietly. Your personal assets are already pledged to the banks. Your reputation is destroyed. And the SEC investigation is just beginning. Or. I paused. We could make a deal. We moved to a private conference room, Cameron, me, and our lawyers. Here's what I'm offering, I said. I drop all potential legal claims related to your fraud. I don't cooperate with the SEC investigation. I personally inject $50 million to stabilize Westbrook Industries and prevent immediate collapse. In exchange for what? You and Natalie both sign employment contracts with the company. 3-year terms, non-negotiable. You'll work as a regional hotel manager at a property I assign. Natalie will work in HR processing paperwork. Standard salaries for those positions, about $85,000 for you, $55,000 for her. Cameron's lawyer leaned forward. You want a billionaire to work as a middle manager? I want a fraud to pay his debt to society in a way that doesn't involve prison. This is generous, Cameron. The alternative is federal charges, civil suits from investors, and bankruptcy. You'll spend the next decade in court and possibly prison. You're insane. I'm merciful. You took credit for my work for 7 years. Now you'll see what it's like to actually work for a living. Take the deal or take your chances with the SEC. Cameron looked at his lawyer, who nodded grimly. It's the best offer you're going to get. What about Natalie? Why does she have to? She stole $2.3 million and betrayed you the same way you betrayed me. She can accept the same deal or face prosecution. Her choice. Natalie signed first. She showed up at my office on a Friday morning, looking nothing like the confident assistant who'd smiled at me at company parties while sleeping with my husband. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For everything. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. That's fair. 3 years, Natalie. You process expense reports, you handle basic HR tasks, and you remember every single day that you tried to steal someone's life and it backfired. She signed without another word. Cameron took longer. He negotiated through his lawyer for 2 weeks, trying to reduce the contract to 1 year, trying to get a higher salary, trying to add clauses that would let him leave early. I refused every modification. Finally, on November 1st, he signed. I'll make you regret this, he said, sliding the contract across my desk. You already tried that, I replied. It didn't work out well for you. I spent the next 6 months rebuilding Westbrook Industries from the ground up. First, I sold the vanity projects. The Miami flagship went to a real estate developer who would convert it to condos. The LA hotel with safety violations was demolished. The Dubai hole in the ground was filled in and sold as vacant land. Those sales brought in $180 million, which I used to pay down debt and invest in the profitable properties. Next, I restructured operations. I brought in a new CFO, a new head of operations, and a new director of hospitality, all women who'd been overlooked for promotions in Cameron's regime. Then I went on an apology tour to investors, showing them the new financials, the new leadership team, and the new vision. Within 3 months, Westbrook Industries was profitable again. Within 6 months, investors were returning. And every single day, I received reports on employee performance across all properties, including the Springfield location where Cameron was now the regional manager, and the HR department where Natalie processed expense reports. I visited the Springfield property unannounced on a Tuesday in April, exactly 1 year after Cameron had handed me divorce papers. It was our smallest hotel, a 120-room property in a secondary market that catered to business travelers and families. Profitable, respectable, but decidedly unglamorous. Cameron was in his office, a cramped room behind the front desk, when I knocked. "Miss Hart," he said, standing quickly. His nameplate read, Cameron Westbrook, Regional Manager. "Mr. Westbrook, I'm here for a routine inspection. I trust you've seen the corporate memo about quarterly reviews." "Yes, ma'am." "Ma'am." Cameron called me ma'am. I spent 2 hours touring the property, taking notes, asking questions. Cameron followed 3 steps behind, answering carefully, the way a middle manager does when the CEO visits. When we finished, I turned to him in the parking lot. "You're doing adequate work. Keep it up. Diana." "Ms. Hart." He swallowed. "Ms. Hart, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "When the 3 years are up, will you let me go?" "I considered this. Depends. Have you learned anything?" "That I was an idiot. That I took you for granted. That everything I built was actually everything you built. Then you have learned something." I opened my car door. 2 more years, Cameron. Maybe then we'll talk." I drove away and didn't look back. 18 months after taking over Westbrook Industries, I sold it. Hart Westbrook Hospitality Group, I'd renamed it, putting my family name first, attracted multiple offers. I accepted a $4.2 billion buyout from an international hotel conglomerate. My 49% stake gave me $2.1 billion. The employment contracts for Cameron and Natalie transferred to the new ownership. They would finish their terms working for someone else, in an even larger corporate machine where nobody remembered Cameron was ever a billionaire. I sent them both the same email. "Your employment contracts have been transferred as outlined in Section 12.3. Your new employer expects the same level of dedication you'll be showing for the next 18 months. Congratulations on your new opportunity." Cameron replied immediately, "You won. Are you happy now?" I wrote back, "I was never trying to win, Cameron. I was trying to get what I always deserved, credit for my own work. Now I'm starting over, on my own terms, with my own money. That's not winning. That's justice." I never heard from him again. 3 years after the sale, I launched Hart Ventures, an investment firm focused on funding female entrepreneurs in luxury hospitality. My first investment was in a boutique hotel chain started by a woman whose husband had tried to steal her concept and pitch it as his own. She reminded me of someone I used to know. I saw Cameron once more, by accident, at an industry conference 5 years later. He was working for the hotel conglomerate that had bought Hart Westbrook, still climbing his way back up the corporate ladder. He was a vice president now, respectable, but not remarkable. When he saw me across the ballroom, he looked away. I didn't. I built something real this time. Something that couldn't be taken away because my name wasn't on a prenup. It was on the letterhead, the business cards, and the hearts of every woman who'd ever been told her ideas weren't good enough while watching a man take credit for them. Cameron had taught me something valuable after all. Never give away your power. And if someone takes it, take it back, with interest. The receptionist at Hart Ventures still keeps one artifact on display in our lobby. The first business card I ever printed with my company name on it. Diana Hart, founder and CEO. No hyphenation. No compromise. Just me.